For the next 6 months, Elijah Renner kept the giants alive in his barn. He told Marta the barn was off limits because he was treating a sick calf with a contagious illness. She accepted this. He told Mary Two Rivers the same thing, and she accepted it as well, although her eyes lingered on the closed barn doors longer than he liked. The giant ate, it drank, it healed. And every evening, after the chores were done and the household was asleep, Elijah Renner went out to the barn with a lantern and a notebook, and he listened. The giant, who gave its name as Arvik, told Renner things that no man in 1879 should have known. It told him that the world he believed he was living in was a recent invention, that within living memory, before Renner himself was born, there had been cities across the American continent that did not appear on any map and were no longer spoken of. Cities with towers of polished stone, paved squares, fountains that ran without pumps, and lights that did not require flame. It told him that these cities had been built by people who were taller on average than the men of Renner's time. Not all of them giants, but most of them 8, 9, 10 feet in stature. And it told him that something had happened, something the giants called the burying, a great flood of mud rising in some places to the second story of buildings, in other places swallowing whole towns. After the burying, it told him, the survivors were hunted. Renner wrote that he did not believe Arvik at first. He pressed for proof. The giant gave him directions to a place in the foothills where, Arvik said, an old door was still buried under 15 feet of soil. Renner rode out the next day and dug for 2 hours. He found the top of a stone arch carved with symbols he did not recognize. He covered it back over and rode home shaking. After that, he believed everything. Arvik told him that there were not many of his kind left. He had been moving south for 2 years, travelling only at night, sleeping in caves and abandoned mines during the day. He had been wounded crossing a river in the Mission Mountains where a pack of dogs from a logging camp had caught his scent. He told Renner that the army knew the giants existed, that the army had been quietly collecting them, dead and alive, for over 30 years, that the bones reported in the newspapers were almost always taken into custody by men in dark blue uniforms within 48 hours of discovery, that what was happening was not an oversight. It was a policy. It was a deliberate, methodical erasure of a people who had inhabited this land before the current settlers arrived. Renner asked Arvik what would happen if the giant was found. Arvik answered without hesitation, "They will kill me, or they will take me to a place where I will wish they had killed me." By late September, the wound on Arvik's thigh had closed. He could stand. He could walk, though he could not run. He told Renner that he intended to leave at the next new moon, which would fall on October 14th. He would travel further south, into the Wind River Range, where he believed 2 other survivors were still hiding in a cave system known only to their kind. Renner agreed to help. He prepared dried meat, hard biscuits, a heavy coat sewn from 3 buffalo hides, and a walking staff carved from a single piece of ironwood. He was going to escort Arvik as far as the Idaho border. He never got the chance. On the morning of October 9th, 1879, 5 days before the planned departure, a column of United States cavalry arrived at the Renner farm. There were 22 of them. They were led by a Captain Holcomb who carried sealed orders signed in Washington. They did not knock on the door. They surrounded the barn first, then the house. Marta screamed. The boys hid in the cellar. Mary Two Rivers, who was at the cabin that morning, ran into the woods and was not seen again for 3 days. Renner walked out of the house with his hands raised. Captain Holcomb told him they had received a report. He did not say from whom. He told Renner to open the barn. Renner refused. 2 soldiers broke the lock with an axe. Arvik was sitting on the floor of the barn, his back against the wall, the buffalo coat draped across his shoulders. He did not resist. He looked at Renner across the long shaft of dust-filled light from the open door, and he nodded once. The soldiers had brought a wagon with reinforced sides and an iron grate. It took 8 of them to move Arvik into it. He went without a word. Captain Holcomb told Renner that he was being taken into custody for harbouring a fugitive of the United States government. He was not arrested formally. He was simply taken. A second wagon carried him east, away from the farm. His original journal, the one he had been writing in every night for 6 months, was found in the barn and confiscated on the spot. Marta and the boys were told to remain on the property until further notice. They were told that any discussion of what they had seen with neighbours, with travelling preachers, with newspaper reporters, would result in the loss of the farm and possible imprisonment. They obeyed. Elijah Renner was never charged with a crime. He was held for 2 weeks in an army stockade outside Helena, then transferred to the Montana Territorial Asylum on the recommendation of an army doctor who declared him suffering from frontier dementia. He died in his sleep 4 years later, at the age of 50.